Welcome to episode 10 and the final episode of season 2 of Drop the Act, brought to you by Performing Perfectly. I'm Chris Key, and before I take a little bit of a summer break, I thought I'd look at how health, fitness and mindset can help enhance your leadership skills. And who better to discuss that with than the Bulletproof Dancer herself, Thalia Burt. I've just realised this is a terrible shirt to wear on camera. It's like, looks like there's a problem. How are you?
So good. I'm really, really good. Thank you.
It's so nice to see you.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how long it's been.
I know. I can't remember.
No clue. Probably Joseph days, I would imagine.
It would have been Joseph days. And I have a story to tell, but I'm not going to tell it till we're going properly. So, okay. Which is probably one of the last times I was sort of in contact with you. But
hilarious. All right.
But thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Honestly, I was stoked that you reached out. It's great.
But then I just thought, I don't really ever talk about how fitness and your body and health can really play a part in your mindset and be great for leaders. So I just saw your social media and saw how active you are and how well I think Bulletproof Dancer seems to be doing. It looks like it's doing really well. So I'm just wondering, well, let's just crack on, shall we? Because I'm just thinking, how much do I want to ask you off podcast, as it were? But actually, we can just chit chat and then we'll see what works and what's not. Great. Okay, you good to go?
Good to go.
Perfect. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, Thalia Burt. Welcome to Drop the Act podcast. Lovely to see you.
So good to be here, Chris. Thank you for having me.
I say good evening, good morning because it's 5 p.m. in the UK and it is what time?
9:05 in the morning in the US.
And why are you in the US?
Actually, here being an adorable little housewife visiting my husband.
Oh, lovely. Lovely. Because is he in the military? Did I make that up? Or
he is, yeah. He's military. So he's just got back from a deployment and we only get to see each other, once every couple of months, which I guess some might say is the perfect marriage.
Well, it works for some. I don't know. So how long are you there for?
I'll be here until like the end of September, until my Esther kicks me out.
Right. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Well, and what's the weather like over there?
Well, I mean, currently it's pretty grey, looking kind of miserable. But it's been gorgeous the past couple of days since I've been here. So, gonna have to go climb a mountain or do something fun.
Nice. So, just for anyone who, not many people will know how we know each other, but we met back in the Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat days when you were in the company. And I was the associate director. So that was at the London Palladium. When was that? What year was that?
It was 2019.
Wow. That has gone really quickly.
My word, yeah.
But just give me a little bit of background. Obviously, you're from South Africa originally. Mm-hmm. What brought you to the UK? And just give me a little bit about the shows you've done, the work you've done, before we get to what it is you're doing now.
Currently. Okay, so my background's always been in musical theatre, originally from Cape Town, South Africa. I started really young. I actually dropped out of high school. She doesn't have an education, but I'm sure we'll get there as well. But yeah, 2012, I started performing. Did a couple of shows around the world. I was very lucky to tour with Cats, with Singing in the Rain, a different version of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, Footloose, The Little Mermaid. I've had a really fab career when it's come to performing on stage, which I'm very, very blessed for. I then was actually going to stop performing in 2017, and my best friend bought me a ticket to London for my birthday and said, "Over my dead body, are you giving up? It's not going to happen." And I was cross. I was furious. But anyway, got on a plane. I stayed with my uncle for a couple of weeks, which turned into a couple of months, and I never bought my return ticket and moved to London. Was very lucky to also be able to hop on another couple of shows and tours. Cats again. Cats has kind of been like the thing that keeps coming back. And yeah, which led me to Joseph in 2019.
And you just said no education, dropped out. I know you're a phenomenal dancer. So where did that come from? Where was the training for that, and from what age? Obviously, to become elite in any high performing industry, it takes a lot of work. So when did that start for you?
A lot of work, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of grinding away, I guess. My mom always jokes and says I literally grungeted out the womb. So I was dancing from a very, very young age. I joined a African contemporary dance company when I was 6. And I was actually the youngest member of their professional company. So I was doing shows with them and touring with them across South Africa, and then went to a musical theatre performing arts college, actually the only one at the time in Cape Town. Cape Town's very small. So I went to the only musical theatre college called the Waterfront Theatre School. So I did 3 years of training with them before stepping onto Cats, which was my first professional show.
I've got to ask, the Waterfront, does that place still exist?
It does, and it's thriving.
Because I think I've been there. And when I was in Cape Town doing some auditions for School of Rock, I got this whistle-stop tour round Cape Town by Gareth, who you will know.
Yeah.
And I was really unwell at the time, but he was like, "You've got to see Cape Town." So I was sort of taken up Table Mountain, round everywhere I could possibly go. So I'd seen Cape Town. And I remember being stood in that studio looking out, and you can just see sort of Wales, reaching. Yeah. It's absolutely incredible. That it's a phenomenal, beautiful place to learn to train, I imagine, and such a difficult environment to leave, or not.
Yes, I think, every time I go back to South Africa and Cape Town in particular, I'm like, oh, why did I leave? But it's just, it's a beautiful place to grow up. I'm so incredibly grateful for all of the stuff that I did when I was still living at home, but the job opportunity is just not the same. And London is the hub for all things theatre, alongside New York and Broadway. I just think I wanted to be able to go and try and dive into the deep end and just see what would stick. And it was the best possible choice. Now I can go back and have a holiday and then get back to the grind.
So we were chatting just before we sort of pressed record on this, and we were trying to work out when was the last time we'd seen each other or we were in contact. And I said, "Oh, there's a story I'm going to tell." But
here you go.
So here it is. Yeah. So you obviously you've always been you've been dancing, but on the side you've always been a personal trainer. Am I correct? Often giving fitness advice. And I know that I was in you know what's coming. Yeah. I was in Korea. And it was during COVID, so 2020, 2021, and I was in, God, what's it called? Isolation. So I was stuck in a hotel room and had to be there for 2 weeks. And it was a very small room, and I couldn't leave. And I thought, I need to keep my brain working, and I need to keep my body working. So I remember messaging you going, "Have you got any exercises, any videos, whatever?" And you were like, yeah. Sent me over this plan. And I remember watching you on screen, and I was following along like, Joe Wicks, for those people who do that on YouTube. And I was absolutely exhausted, and I was in so much pain, at which point you said, "Well, that's the warm-up done. Let's get to the main." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm in trouble here."
Not going to be doing that again.
Yeah, that sort of put me off a little bit.
That was the last we ever heard.
That was it. Yeah, I'm not speaking to her ever again. So you've now set up this company, and this is why I really wanted to talk to you. You've set up the Bulletproof Dancer, and I just wanted to talk. Especially now you've said as well that that you had no education, so now you've gone from performer, dancer, West End, and international musical theatre actress to businesswoman, still connected to the world of dance. But what made you make that shift?
Gosh, there were a couple of different elements to it. I think I don't want to ever say that I lost my love for performing, because it's still there and it's rooted deep in me, and I think it always will, which is why I've gone down the avenue of health and fitness and mindset and nutrition for performers. But I felt like I had more to give to an industry that I think there's a giant gap in the market for performers who just don't actually know how to look after themselves. And I'm sure we'll dive into that at a later stage. But I just had this desire and this want and this need to help the people who were always asking me for help anyway. Like, how can I do this on a bigger scale? How can I reach more people if I'm not in a company with them? Because I was always working on on shows or on tour, and people were coming to me saying, what can I do in the gym, or can I come and train with you, or how can I change my diet to support my performance better? And I just felt like there was more I could do there in that sense. I then met this wonderful man while I was in Korea, and South Korea, same as you, during lockdown. And I knew that being with him was what I wanted more than anything else. So, the world of musical theatre and performing, you're on tour all the time, and the likelihood of, him living in America, me living in the UK, we probably wouldn't see each other. I mean, we still don't, let's be honest. But I needed to have a business that I could pick up and drop wherever he was. And I think those two things aligned beautifully when I got that drive and I got that want and need to help performers, but also I had a reason, love, adorable, that kind of led me to want to do it even more. So I guess the long and the short of it is that.
And that shift from performing to setting up a business, what were those early challenges? What did you know? What didn't you know? How did you go about it?
I didn't know anything, Chris. I knew absolutely nothing. I knew what I wanted and I could see it. And I think that's always been my biggest thing. I like the creative side has never been something that I've struggled with. And I knew exactly what I wanted it to be. I just didn't have the actionable steps to get there. But one thing that I did have, which the industry told me, was perseverance and making sure that it doesn't matter how many setbacks, how many failures, how many rejections, I guess, if you're trying to directly correlate it to performing, but there has to be that, you have to keep going. So I guess the challenges that I faced were failure after failure after failure, because, I actually started my online platform back in 2020 during lockdown. And, over the past, what are we now, 25? So 5 years, the first 3 years of me building my business was, let me just try and figure out who my target market is. I was trying to sell a plan to people that I didn't resonate with or people that I didn't know. I was trying to get onto the weight loss trend or the yo-yo dieter or the yummy mummy or whatever. I'm like, I'm not that person, right? So the biggest lesson I learned was to find a niche that I could relate to, and then just to make sure that you continuously put the work out until people trust you for the work that you can do.
And how has that vision evolved then since you said quite clearly you knew what it wanted, you found your target audience. And so what's that first, you're nearly at 12 months of Bulletproof Dancer, or has it been going?
It is. 2 years.
2 years. Oh my God.
Yes,
yeah. Should do my research better. So what did that first year look like? What were the ups and downs? What were the struggles? And when you say you had setback after setback, what did that look like? And how did you, you said perseverance, but how did you come through those?
The first year was as I said, a lot of trial and error, a lot of mistake making. And when I say mistake making, it's like teething problems, right? Plans that haven't been well thought out enough, things that I hadn't trialed myself. So there was a lot of work that needed to be done on the back end. And the thing that I actually did to build that rapport was to do a lot of stuff for free, right? It's like you can't expect people to trust you and to invest their hard-earned cash in what it is that you do if they don't. People are results driven, right? They want to be able to see, okay, is this method tried and tested? Okay, great. Now I'm being sold something that I know that someone that I look up to has done and they have gone through, or they have had a similar experience. So I did a lot of work for free. I invested a lot of my own savings and money into a platform that I didn't know was going to work yet. So like a lot of risk taking, and then perseverance, a lot of rejection. I wanted to be able to reach a much bigger scale of performers, but a lot of people didn't trust me, therefore they rejected me. Therefore it was like, right, how can I try and figure out how to build trust with people? And so the free stuff started to come into play.
that building trust, that whole idea of rapport is so important, but also that people buy people, so again, it's about how you can express that, I suppose, through communication, through action. What did you find was the most, was it just being there, those one-to-ones, them getting to know you was the best way, or was it through a social media, how you made your brand grow?
Yeah, I think brand development is a huge thing, but it's exactly what you said. You hit the nail on the head. It's people by people. And I think that's why my online platform didn't work previously, because I was trying to tap into a market of people that I didn't understand and who didn't understand me. So as soon as I was vulnerable, relatable, I spoke about my own personal experiences, trials, tribulations on social media, then the industry, it's almost like you create a environment where people no longer feel alone, right? Like performing arts is a very lonely industry. We're always part of a company. We're always in an audition room or a class, but it's almost like everyone's, fighting for themselves, and it's all about self-development and self-gain. So I think as soon as you've created a space where people go, oh, I relate to that, or I've gone through the same thing, or I see myself in your story, they then start to build trust, and you just build a really beautiful community of people that get you and you get them.
The purpose of Performing Perfectly is always about, bringing out a world of theatre to business. And people who've listened to the podcast, I mean, there have been a few people from theatre on it, but people from across different industries. But, you keep hearing the word performance, and I want anyone listening today, when we talk about the word performance, we're not just talking about how you perform as a dancer, as an actor, as a musical theatre. We're asking about how you perform in whatever job it is you're doing. I just wonder if you could start off by talking about the people that you were targeting and what it is that Bulletproof Dancer does, and what you saw that was missing from their development, from their, as you said, their health and nutrition. And then I'd love to look at, why that's so important for anyone leading a company.
I think, like anything in life, everyone's always got like a desired outcome, right? We get attached to this idea of an outcome in our heads, but we very seldomly think or consider the amount of work that it takes to get there, right? An audience member will see a performer on a stage and go, wow, that's amazing. You can do all those turns and this production's great. But no one thinks about like the 10 to 10 tech period, or like the 4 weeks of rehearsals prior, where everyone's like busting a gut to just show up. And I think that proves true in business as well, right? Everyone sees Bulletproof as an entity and as a whole, but they don't know that I spent a whole entire year working for free and trying to brush up on all the years of knowledge and education that I missed out on previously. So I think the thing that's missing with performers that I work with is a knowledge, an idea, and an understanding of how to actually look after yourself in this career. And that isn't just along the lines of physical health and fitness. It's mental health and mental resilience and mental fitness. Understanding what to put into your body so that you can get the best possible outcome. Then you go down the avenue of injury prevention and making sure that you're working closely with a physiotherapist, blah, blah, blah. Like the list goes on and on. But I think the biggest thing that performers are missing, in my opinion, is a sense of community. And that will be the thing that I always strive to create above all else. Is there is nothing worse than feeling as though you are not a part of something and you are doing this on your own. And I think the more people I connect with and the more people I bring together, the more people realize that everyone's in the same boat and we all go through the same struggles in whatever capacity they are. And as soon as you realize, I've got my people, you then know that there's strength in numbers.
Completely. There's a few things you've just said that I want to pick up on. So first of all, let's just talk about the gaps in your education. So what was it, the sort of thing that you went, look, I've no idea here. I've no idea what I'm doing. I've never, because let's be honest, we're not taught business, certainly in the UK, we're not taught business in school. You can take a business GCSE, but I always feel like a lot of the maths that we're taught, for example, is just stuff that we're never going to use, and it makes far more sense to let's actually talk stuff that's going to be relevant to us rather than algebra. Let's talk about your percentages of VAT and what your VAT bill is going to look like and all those sort of things. But where were the areas where you went, I haven't got a Scooby here, I've really got to do some homework here?
It was right at the beginning. So right from the beginning of, how do I even, I thought I'd just be able to set up this business and great, it just money goes into my bank account and whoop-de-doo, here we are. But how do I set up a limited company? Okay, great, that company's now growing. All right, what is that and why do I have to pay it? Then there's all the elements of tax. So there were so many different things that I didn't know about. But the first step was to get a business coach. And that business coach just helped me set up the trajectory ideals for my business. Who do I want to serve? how am I going to serve them? And now what actionable steps can I take to serve those people? So that coach that I worked with was, how do I steer my social media away from me, Thalia, as the business, and how do I now create a brand that is its own entity? I don't want to be associated with Bulletproof is Thalia Burt. No, Bulletproof is its own entity, and it's run by all these other people. So that was the first step. And then making sure that I had a great accountant that understood all of the elements that I did not understand. And just phoning a lot of friends who were in a much better position that I could ever imagine to be in and hope to be like one day. But I think we also forget the value of asking for help. You'll be surprised how many people are willing to help you if you just genuinely want to learn, and not expect much in return other than, hey, can you just give me your advice? That really has been a game changer for me, is asking.
And was there a pivotal moment on your journey where things started to click into place? Can you remember a moment where you went, actually, okay, we're running now a little bit. This is really starting to work. Was there a key moment?
I wouldn't say there was a pivotal moment where all of a sudden things magically started to happen. I guess I wish there was, but one thing that I've noticed is success likes speed, right? So like, as soon as things start to pick up, you cannot lose momentum. You can't get complacent with, okay, great, I've got 30 people that are now using my app. That's brilliant. Okay, no, let's start to snowball it. And let's make sure that when things start to get easy, we start to rev the engine and we push harder rather than pull back and kind of sit back on our laurels and just wait for something to happen. It has to be actionable.
The other thing you mentioned was how lonely it can be as a performer, and it's a strange industry. I always say, the highs are high and the lows can be really, really low, and it takes a lot of hard work and a lot of resilience, which we'll come to a little bit later. But that idea of being lonely at the top as well, a lot of people in business at the very top are sort of have that pressure of making the right decisions and can feel that they're slightly isolated. And I work with a company called Simple Scaling who run a course for CEOs to how to scale up their business, and we're talking scaling up as big as you can imagine. And of course, once they all get together and once they find this community, and once they all start talking and sharing ideas, they start going, oh, okay, actually, yes, we could take that and we could use that idea. And there is that sort of safety and support in numbers across business, as well as you've identified in theatre.
100%. Yeah. I think strength in numbers is the biggest thing. And it's, I can only compare it on a business sense to that process for those individuals and performers who want to be creatives, let's say, and you start out as an ensemble member and then you end up as a swing and then a dance captain, and as you make your way up, the lonelier and more far removed from the company you become, and it's the same in business. You start out as an assistant and you make your way up, and all of a sudden now you're running your own business, and where's all my friends?
And how many people have you got working with you now? And is it hard I'm not saying you're ready to let go. I know you can't let go, but is even that first time when you go, actually, I'm sending that person out to do this instead of me? It's difficult. It's hard. Yeah. Have you found that?
Massively challenging. And I think you have to let go of your I guess my control issues with everything, right? You want to be able to, like, no one can do as good as a job as I can do myself. That was always my mentality. But that's something that my business coach helped me with is, when you are the one that is wearing all the hats and you've got your fingers in all the pies, your energy is dissipated across many different avenues. So you cannot go all in on something. Therefore, you can no longer see improvement, right? That's when it's like that head on the ceiling moment. Your potential's capped. So you have to learn how to delegate. And that was something that I really struggled with. But my team is brilliant. And I mean, I've got 3 other coaches that work underneath me. My assistant, Taylor, who I will sing her praises until the cows come home because I could not live without her. I've got an account manager who's wonderful, social media and an ads team, which is great. And then all of the people that start to run and develop the app as well. So, well-oiled machine that Bulletproof is. Like, we still have, again, we're only 2 years in, so it's teething problems, but the team of people that make the app successful is huge, and I'm incredibly grateful to them.
Now, there may be some people out there who are listening to this. Hopefully, there might be some people out there that full stop. That's the end. That's the end of the statement. No,
just
yeah, great. We've got 2 listeners. There might be some people who are, they're dancers, and there might be somebody who want to be dancers. But there are hopefully a lot of people who work in business. There's people who fitness and nutrition may be center of their world or may not be. Why do you think? Whether it's for dancers, but for leaders, why is it so critical is to really gauge in on your fitness and nutrition? How does it help you thrive?
I think for people who don't have a job that requires high levels of athleticism, fitness and nutrition has much more of a mental gain than anything else. So, and I'm sure you would have experienced this in some capacity, like the mental clarity you get from movement, and that movement can be as basic as, I'm just going to go and walk around the block in the morning before work, and the mental clarity that you get from a couple of days of just eating really well. It improves your performance, your cognitive function. That's a science, right? That's scientific. The way in which you're able to think, make choices, move forward, stay consistent, like it's a no-brainer. So if you're going to do the bare minimum of just going for a 20-minute walk and making some different choices with regards to what you're putting into your body, what's going on up here is going to accelerate itself forward in a way that is like so huge. And then obviously you start to take into aspects of longevity and injury prevention and wear and tear with your desk job. Like, how many hours do you spend sitting? What's your tennis elbow looking like? Like, are you able to pick your kids up? Or can you make it through a golf day with the boys on a work trip, or are you putting your back out after your first swing? So it's like, it's small things that can be either be like as astronomical as, hey, I'm able to run the 5K in the park, or I'm able to do a marathon, or as basic as I chased after my kid in the backyard this afternoon and I didn't bust a gut while I was doing it, right? But all of these things have such positive spins on the way in which we're able to perform as individuals, as just a human being, which I think is great.
I had a personal trainer who was sending me programs, and so I was, obviously going to the gym, and I can't remember which one it was. It was a chest press or something, and he said, yeah, because that one will be really good for as you get older, if you're just trying to get the suitcase off the top of the wardrobe. And I was like, God, I'm getting to that age, aren't I, when actually that's what it's about. That's when you put your back out, but that's the extreme version. Actually, there's so much, the longevity, the wear and tear. Actually, if we want to keep going, we need to be aware of looking after ourselves to do the simplest of things.
The very simplest, like, it's bad when you sneeze and you put your back out. I think that's probably a good sign to be able to maybe start to go for a couple of walks a week.
So how have you found that your own sort of wellness routine supports your ability to be able to lead, to inspire?
Massively. If my fitness and my nutrition is not in check, I am not fun time at all. So I've started to set like a non-negotiable for myself of just really developing a great morning routine, and that will be wherever I am in the world. So like at the moment, being in the US, I mean my days start at 5 a.m. So you best believe I'm up at 4 a.m. beforehand, so that I've got time to myself before I need to give myself to other people. And if I don't do that, I'm doing my clients and my business a disservice, but I'm also doing myself a disservice because I'm not optimizing myself perfectly. I say perfectly, that doesn't really exist, but in the best way that I can before I start my day. So that can be something as basic as I'm gonna wake up and light a candle, and I'm gonna, I don't know, journal or do some gratitudes or do some breathing, or maybe have a stretch, or if the weather's great, go for a walk before I start my day, so that I know that I've done what I need to do for me, so that I then can start to serve and help other people. But it's a big part of my life, and something that I make sure that I don't hinder on. It's really important to me.
I saw on your social media you said that you were getting up at 5 a.m. and that was mainly to catch the end of the UK day. although there's a lot of talk from people about, the 5 a.m. club, and actually that's when the best people get up, and that's when, people who get up at 5 a.m. get things done. Is that from your experience? Have you ever do you sign into that theory, or when you're at home back in the UK, is it a slightly later start?
Definitely a slightly later start in the UK. I think the 5 a.m. club is probably a mindset, if I'm honest. But I think for a lot of people it works purely because it gives you that time before you need to start your day. So if you have the luxury of, being a person who starts the day at 10 a.m., great, wake up at 9, just give yourself that time. I think that's what's most important. But, a lot of people in the world with, I call them real jobs and real responsibilities like children and mortgages, don't have the luxury of waking up at 5 a.m. and being able to dedicate that time to themselves. So I think it's important to adopt that 5 a.m. club mindset of, okay, let me just do what I need to do the basics of setting myself up for success. And those just come down to your daily choices. Doesn't matter if it's at 5 a.m. or 10 p.m. at night before you go to bed, but it's that conscious choice to want to be a better version of you, and your habits can dictate that.
And the clients that you've got, the people that you work with, and obviously I'm going to expect you to give exact examples, but have you really noticed the connection between the improvement in their physical health and the improvement in their mental health?
100%. 100%. I think we are very clearly becoming aware that we are living in a world that is less and less movement prone. And I think introducing it, like, there is so much that goes on with your blood, your brain, your oxygen, your nerves, your endorphins and everything when you just simply decide to move. And it makes the biggest difference. And as soon as people start to invest in their health for themselves, or in a more performance specific aspect, like, the benefits are going to be a positive, as a no-brainer. Like, that's the bare minimum. You're going to see improvement in your mood as a very, very, very bottom of the food chain thing. But then with time, you start to build those beautiful habits, and you change your behaviors, and you start to see other improvements to your overall aesthetic, your well-being, your relationships. And, that's when it starts to become addictive. And I think that's when things start to get exciting.
We talk quite a lot, obviously, at Performing Perfectly about, I say that as I stumble over my words, about effective communication. Yeah. Obviously, communication between you and your clients, whether it's through social media or face-to-face, plays a massive part. How important have you found that to be, and how have you tailored your communication style to get the most out of the people you're working with?
Communication is like the bare bones of ensuring that my clients are going to have a positive experience on their program, and it actually being somewhat of a success to them. Like, because what we do, it's an online platform, right? And I always say, and I actually have conversations face to face like this via Zoom or on a call with every single person that comes through our doors. If someone wants to train with me or my team, I have to be able to communicate with you first, because I don't know if I can help you yet. Right? I want to be able to fully understand what actionable steps can I take in order to give you the best possible experience. I'm not selling you a one-size-fits-all PDF plan that anyone can do. This is catered to you as the individual. Then, because it is an online training platform, I only know as much as I know. Therefore, I can only help you as much as I know you need help. So communication about what's working, what's not working, what do you find amazing, what do you struggle with, what do you hate, what do you want more of, less of. The more I know, the more I can cater their program and their experience to what works for them, and make those tweaks and changes along the way, so that the success it's guaranteed, or at least somewhat guaranteed. I only want to be able to put forward a plan that I know is going to work if that person shows up. And if they're showing up and communicating with me, there's no reason why it cannot be the best thing that they do, and they have the best experience on the platform. So communication, like, has to be top tier.
And when they do show up, and yet the sort of results show that maybe they're not putting in what you're asking of them, how do you find a way of communicating it's sort of honest, constructive, but also empowering and not demotivating?
I think you have to understand your client. And if we didn't have that call on the front end of understand, like the questions I ask them are, what do you suck at? What is your downfall? What are your positive traits? What are your negatives? What can I expect from you as a client? How do you like to be coached? They tell me exactly what it is that they need. And then all I have to do is do that. So if I'm showing up and I'm investing my time into you, because I take this very seriously, I want you to succeed. If you succeed, I succeed at the end of the day. So if someone is not matching the energy that I'm putting in or the level of commitment that I'm putting into my clients, it's a simple conversation of, hey, remember this conversation that we had? Is there something going on right now that you need extra support with? Because a lot of the time it is that, in which case, life goes like this. We have to learn how to roll with the punches and bob and weave and try and dodge all the things that come up for us. But I think it does all come down to communication at the end of the day. If I notice a client kind of slips under the radar, that rings things for me, because usually our communication is top notch because that's what they expect. So as soon as something starts to hinder or to waver from what they want and need, I question it. I'll hold you accountable, let you know that the support is there. That's my job. This is why I'm here. And if I can't be of support to you, I've always got a couple of people or streams of people or avenues that I can point you towards, be it mental, physical, emotional, health related stuff, so that you can get the support that you need moving forward. And I think that's where the community comes back into play, the understanding of your client and making sure that communication has to be top tier always.
I mean, smart advice, and you could sort of copy and paste that into any business, couldn't you? And how you handle people and whether they're succeeding, delivering based on the conversations, the promises, not promises, but the honest conversations you've had about what the expectations are.
Yeah. I think if your expectations are clear, like you understand what you're wanting, you're understanding where you're wanting to go, and then it's up to the individual to show up at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. And what about communicating with your team and sometimes, I don't know whether you've had to have difficult conversations with them, but those face to face, what's your approach like in that situation?
I'm very clear with how I like to be communicated with, so that, I mean, I'm the kind of person who I always say to my team, do not voice note me, because I don't have time to sit still and listen to a 17-minute podcast on what's going on with your life. Like, send me bullet points, straight to the point. If anything's urgent, call me. I'm always easy to get hold of. I literally have my phone glued at me at all times. So they always know that they can phone me for anything. There is nothing off the table in terms of what we can and cannot communicate on. But I also, I expect a level of excellence from the coaches that work for me and with me and alongside me. So I like to always ensure that everyone feels as though they're an equal rather than I am above you, because I think as soon as anyone that you work with, as long as people feel as though they're seen and they're heard and they're respected, that they're going to want to work hard, right? And I think if I treat my colleagues and my employees with the same level of respect that I would expect from them, it doesn't make sense for them not to reciprocate that.
The name of your company, Bulletproof, obviously suggests strength and resilience, and you've touched on that earlier. I'd love to know a little bit more about perhaps what resilience means to you, what resilience looks like to you, and also maybe in your personal journey how your resilience has been tested.
Woo, it's been tested. What does resilience mean to me? I think, and this is something that I say quite a lot, is I always make sure I adopt a whatever it takes mentality. And I think resilience is doing whatever it takes to get to where you can be, despite all of the setbacks and potholes and speed bumps that you're guaranteed to experience along the way, right? It's about staying true to that snowball effect despite the chaos that arises from it. And I think in my personal journey and experience, I started out in Cape Town in South Africa, middle class family, single parent home. Resilience started from a very, very young age. Despite all of the stuff, the noise and the chaos that was going on in my world, it was, I still go to school. I still show up. I still am kind to people. I'm still, and my mom was a very, very big person to instill that mindset in me. So it's thanks to her that I am who I am today, which is a beautiful story to be able to tell, because a lot of people don't have those people in their lives. And, you know, moving to South Africa, coming to London, you know, tiny little tadpole in a very, very big sea. So the resilience then comes in with, okay, well, no one knows who I am. I haven't studied here. I don't have an agent. How do I get into the room? That then, you know, you persevere, you stay resilient, you do whatever it takes. And that then leads you to the next step of, okay, now I want to be a dance captain, and now I want to be an associate or a resident, and now I want to start a business. And then you start back at square one again. And that, you know, such is life, and things start to repeat itself. But whatever it takes is definitely the thing that will always stay in the back of my mind.
And how do you teach that? And can you teach that? Because I always talk about resilience, and because I've been through the same career as you, I've been in those audition rooms. I've been dancing terribly in a chorus line of 50, trying to get a job that I know I'm never going to get. I've been down to the last two for something and not got it. I've mopped up, you know, sick in nightclub toilets in between jobs, and I've had to do that for the passion of the job that I was hoping to get. And I know I also have been fortunate to have had parents who have been very supportive and have taught me right from wrong. But resilience is a hard one to teach, isn't it? You know, with your clients, how do you teach their resilience?
I think resilience, it's very hard to teach, but I think everyone has some element of resilience that are specific to them. So I think resilience is down to, you know, how have people been brought up? How can you be resilient? Do you understand what it even means? Okay, now how can we directly correlate this to you and your specific world? Because, you know, a lot of people grow up in much worse conditions than I ever did. And their version of resilience is, how can I just get through the day, right? As someone who grows up in a very privileged household, is my resilience is, you know, how do I make sure that I wake up at a certain time in the morning rather than sleep in? Maybe that's their version of it. In which case, we need to learn again, how do I truly get to know my client? And I think and maybe that's the biggest takeaway is, to teach something, you have to understand someone and then figure out how you can be relatable in that sense as well. So I don't know if it can be taught as an entity, but you can try and make it relatable to the individual so that they can grasp it in accordance to what their life is like.
And what's the difference between resilience and mindset, would you say? I mean, someone can have I suppose you can have a mindset to achieve something in particular, and it's going to take resilience to get there.
Well, I think also resilience could be despite your mindset. You know, you can spin it on its head and try and look at it in a very, very different way of, you know, despite what I'm thinking, am I going to stay resilient and do what I know should be done? Or am I going to do the things that I even don't really want to do, but I know it's going to get me to where I need to be? And I guess that's where discipline starts to come into play. And the two complement each other beautifully, discipline and resilience.
And I suppose in fitness, there are things you need more than anything else. But then I suppose in all walks of life, it's so important.
Yeah.
And again, is that repetition that builds that? Certainly in your line of work with people who are working hard to achieve their goals.
I think repetition. You can do reps without intention, right? You can repeat the same things over and over again, and you know, it's that definition of madness, isn't it? Doing the same thing and expecting a different result. But I think repetition in the things that suck, right? It's that like chew the fat mentality, or like step on the glass, or, you know, those elements that you can look at and go, we can do the same things over and over again. But if there's no hard graft behind it, the likelihood of us actually seeing improvement in any capacity is slim. So how can we push the boundaries? How can we chew the fat? How can we sit in the suck of it and continue to sit there until that no longer sucks? And then I can start to move the boundaries on, or, you know, change the horizons that I'm looking at in terms of, right now, what are my goals? Because I did the thing. I sat in the suck for long enough that it no longer sucked. And now I can move the marker, shift the goalpost for myself.
Have you had moments where your mindset has been tested, and how have you got through that? What's your approach been? Or maybe you've covered that, but
my mindset gets tested on a daily basis. And I think coming from a performing background, you're always questioning whether or not you're good enough. There's that like imposter syndrome or the limiting self-belief, those buzzwords that we hear all the time. So I'm always I say always, I have good moments and I have bad ones, but there's always going to be that little voice in your head that's going, remember, you haven't got an education. Remember, you're not cut out to be, all you can do is 5, 6, 7, 8. Don't try and overwhelm yourself with anything extra. And my mindset gets tested massively in that regard, because I'm also the kind of person who doesn't accept no for an answer. So I will always try and find a way to get something done. And I think that's how I overcome things, is right, if it's not this way, there's going to be 1,000 other routes that I can do. And it might take me longer, or there might be a higher hill to climb, or there might be, barbed wire that I need to try and get through. But I can guarantee you, if the heart and the fire and the intention is in the right place, then the likelihood of you being able to achieve that is going to be high. But again, you got to sit in the suck. You got to do the hard things.
There's many people in all sorts of lines of work, I suppose, who have those self-limiting beliefs. I mean, I certainly have had them before, and am I good enough to be doing this? People who get propelled into jobs that they weren't expecting to be in, and suddenly they're in charge of however many people, and thinking, gosh, can I do this? So I think, it's not just something we feel as performers, as actors, but certainly I think people across business feel that. Is there one sort of, and it's not one size fits all, but is there a little hint or tip or anything you just say for people who are having those doubts, for people who are thinking, am I good enough? What's that sort of daily mantra they can take on board and go, actually, I can do this? Is there anything you can give? That's a slightly wattled question, but I think you get the point.
No, it's great. I think, again, it's going to be specific to the individual, but something that I like to take on board, and again, my mom told me this, was feel what there is to feel, and then let it go. So it's like she would always say to me, just repeat this to yourself on a daily basis, or whenever these feelings start to come up for you of not feeling good enough. Even though I feel X, Y, and Z, not good enough, or even though I feel incompetent, I still am able to blah, 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 blah. So even though I feel as though I'm not good enough, I'm still able to show up. Even though I feel, so what you then end up doing is not disregarding how it is that you're feeling, because your feelings are always valid, right? Sometimes we feel things that are out of our control, and sometimes feelings are actually useless. But it's really important to be able to identify what that feeling is, because sometimes how it's presenting might not actually be what's setting you off, right? So I think putting a name to how you feel is important, and then knowing that even though you feel that way, you're still able to do everything else. So that would be my little tidbit.
Thank you. We are winding towards the end of this. It's flown by, this chat. I just want to get a few sort of takeaways for the audience. Got a few questions for you. I just want you to think if we can give the audience a little bit of something to think about. I wonder if there's been sort of one belief or habit that transformed your life or business.
Do the hard things. And that is both a habit and a mindset and a form of resilience. When you do the hard things, majority of the time, those things no one else is doing because they're hard. And when you do those things, you can almost set yourself up one step ahead of everybody else and be at the front of the line, in my head.
You've overcome some of your own self-limiting beliefs, as you've just mentioned, to be making this business a great success. What advice would you give to creatives or entrepreneurs who feel stuck?
Feeling stuck is a feeling, right? It's not a fact. So I think feel stuck as much as you want, but don't feel stuck without action. And I think that's really important to remember, is anything without action is just a waste of your time, right? So feel what there is to feel and make sure that you don't live there, because that's where things start to get messy. That feeling of being stuck, that feeling of regressing, it's a feeling, it's not a fact. So don't live there, acknowledge it, and then take action so that you can move forward.
Very good advice. And if someone wants to build a more resilient body and mind, where should they start? Apart from dropping you an email.
At Bulletproof Dancer. I'm joking. Where should they start? Small daily habits that you can build on. Something I love is habit stacking. Don't dive into everything straight away, right? You're not going to like get off the sofa and have a whole couch to marathon moment, right? So rather than thinking I want to run a marathon, no, every day I'm going to go for a walk around the block. And then that walk around the block turns into half a walk, half a jog, and then a full jog. And then you increase your time. So small, actionable daily steps, because then the success is guaranteed rather than diving in head first with something too big too soon. Humble yourself a little bit.
Take that one on. Lastly, last one, quick fire. I want one book, one food, and one quote that you live by.
One book, one food, one quote. Okay, can I go backwards? Because the quote is still going to be whatever it takes. I will live by that. I will get it tattooed on myself at some point. One food I live by. If I could, I'd probably live off pizza. One food, let me go food group. I think fiber, very often overlooked, things that people aren't paying much attention to. Everyone tries to idolize protein, and we forget that fiber, it's going to be the thing that's going to help you absorb that. So that would be that thing. Book, I'm going to go really basic. So if you're a fitness person in the world, you're going to laugh at me, but Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, which is kind of sums me up, I guess, to a T, is that I like the hard things. Hard things inspire me. And when someone tells me I can't do something, you best believe I'm going to prove you wrong. So if you haven't read that book and you need a bit of a kick up the ass, then that will be it.
Gives us a good insight into your preferences and what makes you work harder.
Yeah. Fiber.
Yeah. So what's next for Bulletproof Dancer? What's the goal? What's the aim?
What's the goal? What's the aim? Gosh, where do I even begin? So many in terms of goals. When does this podcast get released? I guess that will then dictate what I can tell you.
Well, you'll be out in a couple of weeks. So,
yeah. So we are wanting to dive into the schooling system. So prevention over cure, rather than having a bunch of clients that come up to me and say, you know, I've just graduated or I've been in the industry for a couple of years and I wish I started this sooner. I really want Bulletproof to be a thing that is implemented into first, second, and third year as a, hey, this is the app that everyone has access to help you with your training, nutrition, and mindset as a whole. In an ideal world, it's funded by the schools or the government. But I think that's a later down the line goal. For now, I just want to be able to serve more students and more performers, and just be able to give them everything I wish I had when I was there.
It's a great idea. I shall support and second that. And if people do want to get in touch with you, where's the best place to find you?
You can find me personally on Instagram at Thalia_Burt, or on the Bulletproof Dancer page at the Bulletproof Dancer. Both on Instagram is a great place to start.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I wish you all the best with everything you're doing, and I shall make sure I don't leave it so long until we speak again.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
Cheers. Take care.